Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Alfred Hitchcock's Suspicion from 1941. So yes, back again, and this time we discuss yet another Hitchcock film. And for the first time, I watched this film just over 3 weeks ago now, and here it is, of course, on Blu-ray. Suspicion and HMV Premium, title, of course, and the slipcover behind me. And yes, very unique film here. It was great to finally watch this film, and of course, to own this film once again, another Hitchcock to own on Blu-ray. So of course, cherishing that, and yes, very unique film here. It would be very exciting to kind of get your thoughts on this. But yes, spoilers alert, if you haven't seen this film, I'd recommend watching it first and then come back to this review, this discussion. For example, the ending will be discussed. I'll say that now in detail. So yes, just be warned, of course. It'd be best to see the film first, obviously, and then come back to this, and we can kind of go from there, kind of thing. But yes, with that said, as always, very, very unique and kind of really atmospheric Hitchcock film. One that was very surprising in places, and a very different Hitchcock film. Had, of course, moments that were very Hitchcockian, kind of, but I think very, very different. And you could compare this in the way it's kind of approached maybe to Rebecca, of course, but mainly this just kind of stands alone actually from any other Hitchcock film that I've seen personally, and that's around about 20 now. That I've seen, just under that. And very, very different film here, and very, very interesting for a number of reasons. But yes, of course, we have this being another Joan Fontaine, Hitchcock film, and of course the first Cary Grant Hitchcock pairing. So massive, massive event really. This film, just for those two reasons alone. Of course, Joan Fontaine being in Rebecca, and then there was two films after that, and then we have this film here in 1941. So yes, obviously an RKO film as well, and just a very interesting film. It's a very, I found it to be a very unique experience, and as I say, it wasn't the typical Hitchcock kind of thriller in that sense. The use of tension was very, very different, and not to the level I find of most Hitchcock films I've seen, and it was just a very interesting experience. But of course, yes, what did I think of it? I really enjoyed this film. I think, of course I did. I enjoyed it. Of course I liked it. It's just a very pleasant film. I found, it's just my general thoughts, of course. I can't discuss this film, perhaps in detail, like, for example, Rear Window and Psycho, these kinds of films. I have only seen this film once, and, as well, just not a film I can personally talk about, for as long as them films. But, my general thoughts are, we'll start off with, just the first act, very, very much intriguing. It kind of starts off in an epic fashion as well. I found that was very nice. Of course, Franz Waxman as well, composing the score, and it felt, yes, kind of like Rebecca, in the score as well, and just the actual approach to, the actual opening of the film, kind of an epic film, the scope, and just very grand and majestic, the sweeping, for example, the score, the cinematography as well, and just the way the characters are introduced. So very, very nice to see, and of course, this film, yes, Johnny Aysgarth is played by Cary Grant, and here's this kind of charming guy, although mysterious guy, and obviously, this being a spoilers review, how this film ends, at least, the way the film was released and how it ends, is very different. I was very surprised, and actually looking on just at different reactions. Sometimes I do that. For example, of an ending of a film, it's, yes, I can kind of, it's not just me, it's very, very strange, kind of conflicted, very confused. I felt, kind of ending, and the way this film, came to a close, was very, kind of ended a very different way, to which I thought the film would go, just off of the first act. But Johnny Aysgarth, this charming guy, of course he charms, Lena, and Lena McLeodlaw, and of course, obviously played by Joan Fontaine. Once again, another Joan Fontaine Hitchcock film, and she won the Oscar for this film actually, Best Actress. So very interesting, and it's actually the only Hitchcock film that got an Oscar for acting role. So that is just to think on that. How many Hitchcock films, they're just so some of the contains some of the best performances that I've ever seen. Just literally in cinema. Obviously the Jimmy Stewart ones, and endless, countless films. We can kind of go on about, and just side characters, just minor performances as well. Of course, the fact that only one film, that is really really shocking. But it's great to see at least that there was one film. Because I think Hitchcock films, I found so many that I just find very underappreciated. But at least they kind of they have grown and stuff in stature in that sense. But this one here, it's a very unique film, and of course, she plays Lena, Joan Fontaine, and she's kind of charmed by Johnny Aysgarth, and they soon get married. And of course, despite Lena's father kind of disapproving of this character of Johnny, and it all kind of goes from there. We learn more about this character of Johnny, although we kind of think we do, and obviously we've got his friend Beaky as well, in the film played by Nigel Bruce, and he's a great addition to this film, very very charming and funny, and some of my favourite moments in the film, is when the three of them together, and just the comedy, and as well the kind of the drama in there, but it's a very it's got a lot of comedy, in the middle of the film, and just a very pleasant, charming film, and it's a real sense of atmosphere as well. Different moments in the film. Although tonally, this film, it's kind of it's interesting. And certainly we'll get to the ending eventually, but it's a very different final act. To kind of what the rest of the film had been, and it kind of goes. For example, more darker in that sense, in the final act, and then we get the kind of the turn there. But we'll get to that. In terms of performances, I really really enjoyed this film. I think Cary Grant, is just once again exceptional. Joan Fontaine, I enjoyed as well. Although, I think. I found myself, I found perhaps the character of Lena, I wasn't as invested in, as maybe as kind of other characters in the film, and I found, maybe just the actual relationship here, compared to perhaps just other Hitchcock films, not as investing, and just not as enjoyable, and not as kind of satisfying, and kind of developed, really, and that obviously leans into the way the film goes, and the actual ending itself, because looking back on the narrative, it is kind of an up and down one, and one that I found, I was confused, I was conflicted with, in the end, but yes, Lena is a good character, and there's definitely some interesting moments, and but Johnny for me, is a great character, and I just found Cary Grant to be absolutely delightful in this film, and obviously as well Nigel Bruce, it's kind of banter between them, and but Lena, kind of starts to kind of doubt Johnny, and his kind of financial situation, and also just his motives, and it kind of leads into a very interesting and very unique, I find, character study in that sense, and Johnny is kind of who is this guy, kind of thing, and what does he want, and is he the villain, is he is he not, and it was very very interesting to see, and obviously Lena suspects this, and eventually she actually suspects him to be a murderer, and she fears for her own life, and she suspects that he could try to kind of murder her. So very very interesting. Of course, she is very wealthy, and that is the motive there as well, that we find, obviously, and just this very mysterious film, very atmospheric, and very odd actually as well, and in a good way, I find, at times it's just very kind of I find it to be kind of bizarre in places, and I did like that about the film. It stood out to me, I guess, and I also love, the music, as I've mentioned, Franz Waxman, just amazing, this music, and just the actual, the costumes, and the general, sense of, the visuals as well. The storytelling here, it's really quite remarkable at times, in a sense of visuals, and so many shots in this that are just wowing, and the framing in this film is immaculate, and just as well the hilltop scene early on. That's one of the standout moments visually, of course, and yeah. Great, use of sets. Obviously, this is all sound stages. So yeah, just great to see, and I love this. Just seeing different, moments visually. Just this kind of fantastical feeling, to it. There's also kind of a surreal element to the film, and later on in the film, we get the kind of scenes that stick out to me. Of course, the milk scene with Cary Grant, obviously going up the stairs, and the milk, and just the lighting there, and the focus, focusing in on a particular object, which is something that Hitchcock done so well throughout many of his films. Some of the iconic moments, of course, are just particular objects, perhaps simple, mundane objects, in everyday life, but they're kind of elevated, in Hitchcock films, and obviously we have many famous ones, which I won't ruin, obviously for other films, spoilers for example, but we have different signature kind of objects in different films. In this, we have that standard scene that is, the milk, and I guess the glass of milk, and that's one of the kind of, the really tense moments in this film, and that's one of the moments where I was really, kind of feeling the tension, and actually being really hooked on the film. But unfortunately, I find the film, at times to be, kind of flat, actually in that sense, and some of the film, there's big stretches of the film that I just wasn't as invested in, perhaps, and I think this film, compared to other Hitchcocks I've seen, really, I don't think it is, as gripping at all, and the visual, style of Hitchcock is just not as apparent here, I guess, and it's not one of my favourite Hitchcocks. In fact, kind of, not. Yeah, it's very near the bottom of what I've seen so far. Nevertheless, a solid film, and one that I did really like, for the most part, and I guess that even just perhaps, for example, a middling Hitchcock, it's still, of course, a film that I really enjoy and get so much from, and the visuals to this film, and just seeing these actors, of course, Cary Grant, it's just great in this film, and a very different role for him, as we know for most of the film, he's kind of playing this kind of villain, you could say, and obviously we get the ending, but we'll go to that in a minute, but of course, as I say, a very interesting film. The romance in this film is definitely compelling, although again, I guess, not as compelling as many other, films that I've seen, Hitchcock's, of course, and I think, I found, the kind of performance, for the lead's character, to be kind of, maybe off kilter a little bit, perhaps there was a sense of falseness to the approach of the character here, and I just I wasn't as invested in that, in that regard, with the performance and the actual characters, of Lena, but I did get invested, at times, and it's a very intriguing kind of narrative, the kind of the way that she suspects, Johnny, and just Beaky's involvement as well, in the film, and of course we have the father as well, that kind of dynamic that plays in, the kind of disapproval of, of Johnny, and it's very interesting. It raises a lot of questions, and it's very interesting to hear the kind of outlook actually on, from on life from Johnny, and it's very amusing actually to see the way he kind of comments on different things, and it's just a very interesting character. I find Johnny's definitely a standout to me, and but there's some things that I think I just wasn't as invested in, and I think there is oddly at times a lack of tension, just for my liking, and in that sense, it does, I guess it relies on the pleasantness of it, and seeing these these actors, these stars in the film, and obviously as well, the direction is definitely obviously strong, and I think the editing at times is is really lovely. I love the kind of way in which it fades, and we have different scenes, the flow of it, it's very nice to see, and kind of this dreamlike effect at times, and I just love the editing at times, and yeah, it's just some of the shots, as I say, very grand, very majestic, and very nice to see the costumes in this film, and yeah, of course the score is great as well, but I did find the film lacking just in an overall sense of investment, the depth of different characters, other than of course Johnny, is kind of for me lacking, and just with a Hitchcock film, I'm usually just really constantly from start to finish, kind of fully invested. You know, I can't say personally that I was with this film, but you know, there was at least something going on, you know, in every kind of minute or so that I was interested in and compelled by. So, you know, very commendable film this. And although I did find the film to be very fast moving, I find the film to have many different pieces, moving pieces, and very quick. I found, you know, the film to be moving and, you know, perhaps rushed would be perhaps one way to describe the film, you know, I guess, and kind of, you know, really zipping along the different points, you know, within the narrative, and maybe that kind of lessened my, you know, my actual investment in the film, you know, perhaps, yeah, just for my liking, perhaps moving along without really getting fully attached in a particular way to different parts of the film, but, you know, despite that, you know, I really enjoyed this film, and, you know, just very pleasant, and, you know, we have the great, you know, scene, actually, the dinner party scene, that is great, and that's when the tension, one such example, when the tension is really, really high, and just so many different things going on, dramatic irony, and yes, also mystery though. There is a sense of wonder to this film that is kind of kept, you know, until, you know, you could say maybe the ending of the film, which we'll briefly discuss, you know, with spoilers, of course, once again, warning there, but we learn, you know, in the very final scene, obviously, and yeah, that Johnny was not trying to murder Lena. In fact, no, due to his financial situation, really, he was actually trying to commit suicide, and yeah, you know, obviously it kind of is played out in that final scene, you know, in the car, and then getting out of the car, and then driving back, and you know, that's the end of the film, the last kind of 5 minutes or so, and you know, I think I had a mixed reaction to the film here, you know, the ending, and I don't hate the ending. Of course, many people react very strongly to the ending. I find it to be, you know, there's some things, on one hand, I don't like personally about the ending, and, you know, the way it kind of resolves different aspects of the narrative, although, on the other hand, I do, you know, really like, you know, the ending in some regards. I think, for example, it adds a lot of weight to the character of Johnny Aysgarth. I just think a lot of sympathy for him, and I think I personally think Cary Grant in this final scene as well is great. You know, he really adds a lot of emotion to the character, and just, I feel, you know, just so much sympathy. It's a very moving moment, actually, and just, yeah, I love Cary Grant, you know, in this scene. I think, you know, very interesting, and when you look back on different things, you're thinking, you know, on how things actually were in different moments, and, you know, piecing them together, and it fits in a way, although, in a sense, on the other hand, we have, for me, you could say, yeah, some would describe this as a cop-out ending, you know, I guess, but for me, perhaps it doesn't quite fit this film, and you know, for example, in another film that wasn't building up like this, and you know, kind of thing with this particular romance, I think it would have been a great ending. I think it would have been, you know, in itself, you know, to actually reveal that the actual intentions, the actual reasoning here for the character of Johnny, you know, is actually, you know, amazing. You know, it really is great writing. But in this sense, you know, in relation to this film, this narrative, it doesn't work perfectly. It's kind of a mixed bag of an ending, and it feels a bit rushed actually as well. You know, it's very much revealed in the final moments, and it feels like it's trying to be, you know, more of a happy ending in that sense. And fine, you know, I love my happy endings, but it just doesn't quite gel, you know, with this film. And I think on this particular occasion, had it you know, kind of ended with, you know, the opposite scenario, and you know, kind of thing, I think it would have made more sense. It would have been a more complete film in that sense as well. But nevertheless, I take, you know, there's some negative things about the endings, some things I'm not quite as big on, you know, in that sense, but also some positives, and I do really love the performances here, you know, the ending, and it's a very, you know, just a human, you know, kind of reveal in that sense, and I think, once again, Cary Grant here is great, and I think, yes, the framing at times, and the actual shots are very nice as well, and just, yeah, very, very intense, regardless of the actual outcome, you know, what they're saying, for example, turning the sound off, and it's a very intense scene, it's very well put together, but yes, very strange, very confused, you know, I guess, kind of ending, which led me to kind of have a mixed reactions, some positives, some negatives, you know, to the ending. Overall, yeah, I guess it's you know, an ending that kind of undermines and kind of, if it doesn't quite feel organic, it doesn't quite feel fully sincere, but that's the way it is. It's not a bad ending, kind of a moment to me. It's a film that I find it has some complex moments, and I guess the ending is also kind of complex. Although again, it's not an ending that I think is fully realised. For in the sense of this narrative in this film, it's definitely a film that I think has a flawed ending. But I guess that's just that, and one of the drawbacks of the film for me, is the ending. But regardless, my experience of this film was very pleasant. I had a really good time with this. I think for me, it's a good film, one that I mostly really enjoyed. At times, maybe not so much, but definitely a good Hitchcock film, and some real greatness in there. Just not a film that is kind of it feels a bit incomplete, as I say. To sum it up, kind of it feels incomplete. It feels a little bit lacking in the tension department, and just the actual investment to the narrative, the characters, the story. But so nice to see, and very uplifting at times, and just to see a glorious kind of film. In the kind of the music, the sets, of course, and just the lighting, the atmosphere to this picture is so wonderful to see. And obviously Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine. It's great to see stars like this, acting in the same film. And of course, yes, we have Nigel as well, and he's great in the film. Adds a lot of comedy, and yes, overall, I did really like this film. For the most part, I think it's definitely a film that I enjoyed, and I'd recommend it, of course. But for me, it's a good Hitchcock film, and not one of his best. Not a great film, just personally for me. But definitely a commendable one that I took many things from, and just it was very unique, very different, and I had a good time with this one. Very interesting film, and very really a film with feeling, this one as well, no doubt. But yes, for me, my final rating is a 71%, and yes, again, not as high as many of the Hitchcock films that I've talked about on the channel, but for me, definitely a film that I enjoyed, and yes, very pleasing at times, and just a nice film to see, a very pleasant viewing, and yeah, not a film that I loved, not something that blew me away personally, but there is greatness there, no doubt, and obviously I enjoyed it, of course, no doubt there. I like the film, and it's great to see, yes, another Hitchcock that I didn't really hear too much about, and it's great to see. It's great to kind of experience this different Hitchcock film, one that has some familiar moments. You can kind of see Hitchcockian moments in that sense, but overall it feels very different. It feels kind of unique, and it's very nice to see, and just another Hitchcock that I, of course, responded to, and yes, it's very rare for me not to, and yes, because so far, another bit of a kind of a trivia here. Hitchcock is of course, one of my four favourite directors, but he's also the director who I've given a masterpiece status to more than any other director, in the sense of his actual film count. I think of what I've seen, of course, more masterpieces than any other director in the history of cinema. So that is quite an accolade, indeed, and that's I can't give higher praise than that, really. He is one of my four favourites, and he's always inspiring me, and of course, I've reviewed many of his films, and just obsession with Hitchcock films, and it's one of the things that just drives my cinematic passion, and yeah, it's great to always discuss as well Hitchcock film. So what do you think? What do you think of this film? What do you think of it? The ending, and just the different characters, and how do you compare this to other Hitchcock films? And it'd be always great to discuss this and hear your thoughts on this, and respectful comments. It's just great to see on Hitchcock films in particular, and always fascinating to discuss and to hear your thoughts on all the different characters, all the different acts of the film, the visuals of the film. There's always something to talk about in regards to Hitchcock's works, and once again here, no doubt, it's a very interesting film, very unique, one that I really enjoyed for the most part. Overall, I definitely enjoyed this film, although it's not a great film for me, and definitely not a film that I loved, and isn't quite up there with many of the other Hitchcocks that I've seen so far. But nevertheless, definitely a film that I find very commendable and you know, very unique. And yeah, I loved Cary Grant in the film, and you know, just yeah, I had some problems with the film, some issues with the film, but nevertheless, very pleasant, very very interesting, very unique, and just you know, had this atmosphere, had this as well, this sense of wonder to the film. Although the ending lessened that, I think you know, throughout consistently, you know, it's a very interesting film. You know, the atmosphere and just the character working, and I think some of the lines as well. You know, dialogue. You know, very unique. You know, I've never heard particular moments. You know, lines in another film. You know, it's very unique and yeah, just very interesting film. Very different Hitchcock. Nevertheless, a Hitchcock once again that I enjoyed, of course. One of my absolute favourite filmmakers. And yes, tell me your thoughts. You know, on this film and other Hitchcock films, if you want. I'm always open to discussion, you know, on this guy. And yes, that's it for now. We'll wrap up. You know, I have no more to say for now. But you know, again, I really enjoyed this film. You could say overall, and just you know, I had a good time with this. Very pleasant, very warm, and very interesting indeed. Very unique, and yes, a very different Hitchcock, but nevertheless a Hitchcock that I liked once again. And you know, I'd recommend this, of course, to anyone really. And yes, of course, Suspicion, added to my collection. Very proud to have this, and yet another Hitchcock that I liked, and of course now own this on Blu-ray. So yes, very nice to see, and very nice to have you know, in my collection. So yes, tell me your thoughts, and as always, take care, and thanks for watching.